So we're going back now to looking at different number works such as fractions, decimals and percentages, and we're going to make sure that we know the relationships between them and how to confidently change between them. So we'll get onto that today. First of all, our two starters are probability starters. It'll be a while since we've looked at probability, I expect. So first question, if I pick a letter at random from the word lockdown, find the following probabilities. So remember, the probability notation is the capital P, means the probability of, and then the event is in the bracket. Okay, so the first question is asking, what's the probability if you pick a letter at random from the word lockdown that the letter is an L? So if we have a look, remember, probability is calculated, just a second, probability is calculated as a fraction, and on the bottom of the fraction is the number of possible outcomes, and on the top it's the number of favourable outcomes. So number of possible outcomes, that's a number of different things that can happen when you pick a letter at random from the word lockdown, and the number of favourable outcomes is how many of them are, in this example, an L. Okay, I always think it's easier to do the denominator of the fraction first. So if you pick a letter at random from the word lockdown, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things that can happen. So the 8 goes on the bottom of the fraction. Okay, number of favourable outcomes is the number of ones that are actually an L, and that's 1. So the probability of picking an L at random is 1/8. Okay, so next one, probability of picking a vowel. Now it's still going to be out of 8 because there are still 8 letters in the word lockdown. So the number of vowels, we've only got 2 vowels. There's the O's, so it's 2/8. But as usual, you must remember if your fraction will simplify, then you have to do that. So it's 1/4. And then the last one, probability of the letter being a consonant. Well, there's 2 ways we can do this. We can either count the consonants and make it out of 8, or we can realise that every letter is either a vowel or a consonant. So if it's not a vowel, it is a consonant. 1/4 of the letters are vowels, so that must mean that 3/4 of the letters are consonants. Or we could have just counted them and we would have got 6/8, which would simplify to 3/4. Okay, and the next one. The following counters are placed in a bag. Find these different probabilities. So, first of all, probability of getting a red one. Well, again, it's going to be a fraction, and like I say, I think it's easier if you do the bottom of the fraction first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 counters altogether there. Count the red ones. There are 4 red ones. So the probability, if you pick a counter at random, probability of it being red is 4/15. Okay, do blue next. If you look, we've got still 15 counters. 3 of them are blue. 3/15 does simplify because 3 and 15 are both in the same times table. So that'll give us 1/5. Then green, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green. So 6/15 is the probability of picking a green counter at random, but they're both in the 3 times table. So that's the same as 2/5 when we simplify it. And a primary colour is red, blue or yellow. And so we know that 6 of them are green. So there must be 9 of them that are a primary colour. So that makes 3/5 when we simplify it. Okay, so as usual, if there's anything that I do either in the starters or the main bit of the lesson that you're not sure about, just give me a shout. I can always record an extra little video or send you some more examples or whatever to help. So we can see that what we've got coming up today is long multiplication. Now, this is probably something that you were taught years ago, and a lot of people seem to be a bit frightened of it, but it's not difficult. So we're just going to spend today learning how to do that and practicing it. Then you can see that for the next little while, we're going to get on to other things to do with basically just different types of numbers. Okay, making sure that we're confident at all that before you get back to school and get stuck into your National 5. Okay, so method for long multiplication. I'll show you with 2 examples and I'll do more working than you're actually going to need. Okay, so first one, 453 times 24. So if we want to multiply something by 24, then what we can do is we can multiply it by 20 and we can multiply it by 4 and then add those things together. Okay, and that'll give us 453 times 24. So what we do is set up a big answer box, and the first row in our answer box is going to be 453 times 20, and the second row is going to be 453 times 4, and then we're going to add them together and we'll get our answer at the bottom. Okay, so to start with, we're going to do 453 times 20, but we know that to multiply by 20, we can, if we're dealing with whole numbers, we can multiply by 2 and add a 0. So if we add the 0 to start with, and then for the time being, just ignore the 4, okay? Pretend it's not there. So we just do now 453 times 2, because we know that that'll give us 453 times 20 because we've put the 0 there. Okay, so we're going to do, ignore the 4. 3 2s are 6. 5 2s are 10. When you do that, be very careful about where and how you put the numbers that you're carrying, because you don't want them getting muddled up later on. Okay, it's not a good idea to be carrying up here, I don't think, because you've got 2 lots of multiplication to do and you might get muddled up when you're doing this line. So I don't want you getting muddled up. So anyway, where we were up to was we've done 3 times 2, we've done 5 times 2, now 4 times 2 is 8, add the 1, makes 9. Okay, so that 1 that I did for carrying there, it's not going to be included when we do our adding up, and I've done it so teeny tiny that hopefully it's not going to get in the way. Okay, so we've completed this line, which was 453 times 20. So now here, we need to do 453 times 4. So now we ignore the 2 and we just multiply by the 4. So 3 4s are 12. 5 4s are 20, add the 1. 4 4s are 16, add the 2. And you can see, generally speaking, if I've carried numbers when I'm doing long multiplication, I sort of write over them with the big number so that they're not going to draw my attention or get me muddled up when I come to do the adding. Okay, so we know that if we've got 453 times 20 and we add that to 453 times 4, then we must have worked out 453 times 24. Okay, so we just add now. So 0 add 2 is 2, 6 add 1 is 7, 0 add 8 is 8, and 9 add 1 is 10. So you can always check that on a calculator. Okay, this is just helpful sometimes for doing maybe percentages without a calculator, to save you having to go through the, like for example, if you're finding 35%, to save you having to go through finding 10% and timesing it by 3 and then halving your 10% to get 5% and adding it up. You can do it in one go with long multiplication. Okay, anywho, so on to the next one. So here, what we're going to do is ignore the decimal points. Okay, so we're going to set our big answer box up that's going to have 2 lines again. So this top line is going to be 247 times 35. Times 35, of course it's not, times 30. And then the second line is going to be 247 times 5. And we're going to sort out the decimal point at the end. Okay, so just ignore the decimal points completely just now. Just pretend they're not there. Okay, so doing 247 times 30. What we're going to need is a 0 in here, and then we ignore the 5, pretend it's not there, and do 247 times 3. So we're going to do 7 times 3 is 21. Then 4 times 3 is 12, add the 2, makes 14. And then 2 times 3 is 6, add the 1, makes 7. Okay, so 247 times 3 is 7,410. Okay, so the next line is 247 times 5, so let's bring that 5 back. And we're going to forget about the 3 this time. Okay, so we're doing 7 times 5 is 35. 4 5s are 20, add the 3, makes 23. 2 5s are 10, add the 2, makes 12. So then when we do our adding up, we're ignoring these little carrying numbers, remember. So only add up the big numbers. Okay, so we're doing 0 add 5, 1 add 3, 4 add 2, 7 add 1. Okay, so 0 add 5 is 5, 1 add 3 is 4, 4 add 2 is 6, 7 add 1 is 8. And we've not finished yet because, remember, in the question, it wasn't 247 times 35, it was 24.7 times 3.5. So to work out where the decimal point goes, look at the number of decimal places you've got in the question. In other words, the number of figures after the decimal point. So we've got 2, so you need 2 decimal places in the answer. So that's where the point must go. Okay, so the next examples that we do, I'm not going to write the stuff at the side. I'm only going to tell you exactly what you need to write. Okay, you don't need to write all that. So first one, 932 times 36. So the first line is going to be multiplying by 30. The second line is going to be multiplying by 6. And then we're going to add them together. So let's get on with it then. So first line is 932 times 30. So we're going to stick the 0 in there and then ignore the 6. Okay, so we're going to do 2 3s are 6, 3 3s are 9, 9 3s are 27. Then we're going to ignore the 3 now. 2 6s are 12, 3 6s are 18, add the 1, makes 19, 9 6s 54, add the 1, makes 55. And then we add, so 0 add 2 is 2, 6 add 9 is 15, 9 add 5 is 14, add 1, 15, 7 and 5 is 12, add 1, 13, and 2 and 1 is 3. So the answer, because we didn't have any decimal points in this question, is 33,552. Okay, so next question, we've got a decimal point, but remember what we're going to do is ignore it till the end. Okay, so we're going to do times 40 on the top row. So 2 4s are 8, 6 4s are 24, 5 4s are 20, add the 2, makes 22. And then ignore the 4 and deal with the 8. So 2 8s are 16, 6 8s are 48, add the 1, 49, 5 8s are 40, add the 4, makes 44. So adding up, 0 add 6 is 6, 8 add 9 is 17, 4 and 4 and 1 is 9, 2 and 4 is 6, and then 2. So 26976 is not the answer to this question because we've got the decimal point to deal with now. So we've got 1 decimal place in the question, so we need 1 decimal place in the answer. So it's 2,697.6. Okay, next one. Again, ignoring the decimal points. Top row is times 20. So 1 2 is 2, 2 2s are 4, 8 2s are 16, 7 2s 14, add the 1, makes 15. Then the second row is going to be times 5, ignore the 2, So 1 5 is 5, 2 5s are 10, 8 5s are 40, add the 1, and 7 5s are 35, I need to add the 4. So adding up, we've got 0 add 5 is 5, 2 add 0 is 2, 4 and 1 is 5, 6 and 9 is 15, 5 and 3 and 1 is 9, and then you've just got 1. And if we have a look at the question, we've got 2 decimal places in the question, 2 numbers after the decimal point, so we need the same in the answer, so the point goes there, 1955.25. Okay, you'll notice when we've been doing these questions that I'm being quite careful about keeping the numbers in the columns. If you let things go wonky, you're going to get the wrong answer because it's very important that these numbers stay beneath each other. Okay, one more multiplying by a 2-digit, and then we're going to go on to 3-digit. Now I'm calling this one a 2-digit because the first digit is 0. Okay, so we can just ignore the 0 for now. So let's multiply 8,511 by 38, and then we'll deal with the decimal point. Okay, so we're focusing on the 3 just now. So before we put that in, put the 0. So 1 3 is 3, 1 3 is 3, 5 3s are 15, 8 3s are 24, add the 1, 25. So then ignore the 3, concentrate on the 8. So 1 8 is 8, 1 more 8 is 8, 5 8s are 40, and 8 8s are 64, add the 4, makes 68. So then adding up, we've got 8, 11, 4, 13, 12, and 3. And if we have a look in the question, we've got no decimal places here, but we've got 2 here. So we've got a total of 2 decimal places in the question, so we need 2 decimal places in the answer. Okay, so that's practice at using long multiplication for 2-digit numbers. Then we're just going to have a quick look at 3-digit numbers. It will not surprise you, I hope, that it's exactly the same sort of setup, but in the first line we're multiplying by 400, on the second line we're multiplying by 10, and on the third line we're multiplying by 6, so that when we add them up we've multiplied by 416. Okay, so to multiply by 400 we're going to ignore the other digits and we're going to put 2 zeros, and then we're going to multiply by 4. So 2 4s, 8 4s, 3 4s, 5 4s. Okay, so 2 4s are 8, 8 4s are 32, 3 4s are 12, add the 3, makes 15, 5 4s are 20, add the 1, makes 21. So next, we're going to forget about the 4 and the 6 and multiply by the 1. So the 1 has to represent 10, so we need a 0 before we do anything else. And then we've got 2 1s are 2, 8 1s are 8, 3 1s are 3, 5 1s are 5. And then the next line, we're going to multiply by 6, ignoring the 4 and the 1. Okay, so 2 6s are 12, 8 6s are 48, add the 1, 3 6s are 18, add the 4, makes 22, 5 6s are 30, add the 2, makes 32. So even when you've got 3 lines of working, just again, be really careful to keep your columns clear. All right, so adding up, we've got 2, 11, 16, 18, 19, 7, 8, 13, 2, and 2. And then we have no decimal places in the question, so we have no decimal places in the answer. So we're going on to the last one for today now, where we're going to need 3 lines. The first line, Now we're going to ignore the decimal points, remember. So the first line is going to be times 300. The second line is going to be times 20. And the third line is going to be times 4. So forget about the decimal points. We'll deal with them at the end. Okay, so the first line times 300 means that we need to put 0, 0 in to make it 300 because we're just going to multiply by 3. So 9 3s are 27. 5 3s are 15. Add the 2, makes 17. 8 3s are 24. Add the 1, makes 25. The next row is times 20. So we're going to need 1 0 and we're multiplying by the 2 this time. So ignore the 3 and the 4. So 9 2s are 18. 5 2s are 10. Add the 1, makes 11. 8 2s are 16. Add the 1, makes 17. And then lastly, we're multiplying by 4, so we don't need any zeros at the end. So 9 4s are 36. 5 4s are 20. Add the 3. 8 4s are 32. Add the 2, makes 34. And then adding up, we've got 6, 11, 8, 12, 13, 18, 7 and 2. A lot of digits there. And if we have a look in the question, we've got 3 decimal places. So in the answer, we need 3 decimal places. So we can see that the point goes in between the 8 and the 3 there. Now, what you should always do when you're doing any kind of a calculation, really, is pay attention to whether your answer makes sense or not. So, for example, this one, we've got 80 odd times 3 and a bit, okay? 80 times 3 is 240, okay? So, what we've got here is your answer needs to be in the region of 240. So if the decimal point was anywhere else, it wouldn't make sense. It couldn't be 27 point something because that's nothing like 240. 278 is the right sort of size. 2,783 would be far too big. So when you've got about 80 times about 3, you're going to need about 240. And that can help you see that you've got your decimal point in the right place. Okay, so well done with this. I'll give you practice questions to do. And if you just have a wee practice of that, then hopefully you'll be a bit more confident if you're required to do it again. Okay, see you later.